All right, here we are at step one. We're going to jack up the vehicle. What we're aiming for is replacing this brake line right here, this guy. We're going to replace that, and we're going to bleed the whole brake system, switch out the front pads and rotors, all with Goodridge hard lines. And I'll put a link to the specific part number below. But yeah, this is a full set of front and rear stainless braided lines for not that much. Well worth the upgrade. And when you're dealing with a 170,000 mile truck, you want to think about stuff in terms of wear and fatigue, not just in terms of pure age. Things like brake lines that are a good thing to replace with this kind of mileage. Once that's off, you've got one bolt here that you're going to take off. First thing you want to do before you get that step done is get yourself a clamp, vice grips, something like that. You want to help kind of squish and clamp off this line. I think in this case, vice grips are only going to be the only thing that have enough pressure to close this off. So you want to crack it loose down below, and then get your other brake line, your replacement, installed at this end, and then disconnect this end, reconnect it quickly. Then you're going to go through the bleed procedure, and we'll talk about that in just a second. And we can see here that the brake line kit actually fits up really nice. Go ahead and use the new hardware. Move the position for the rear two. There's this extra silicone piece. There you go, you can see a little better. Move it to where when it flexes up and down, in and out of the range of motion here, it'll intercept the sharp edges of the arm. That'll keep you out of quite a bit of trouble. And you can see the length is going to be pretty good. And by clamping that with the vice grips, the only stuff that came out was out of the caliper, and it's not dripping actively out of the brake line. So then when I disconnect it up here, it's going to drip a bit. I'll get this secured really quickly, and it'll be ready to go. So it should be a very, very easy swap. Then you bolt everything. Actually, then you do the bleed procedure for this specific one here at this caliper, and then you go around and do the rest of it. Thankfully mine still has good dust caps, so that'll make life a little bit better. I'm going to be using a pressure bleeder, so we'll go over that in a little bit. 5.1 brake fluid into the bleeder, get a little initial pressure, start adding fluid back into the reservoir, trying to get all the air bubbles out, and slowly but surely we'll refill it to the max level. Open the back and let a lot of the old brake fluid out, along with a lot of the air as well. And with this guy bled, cap goes back on, everything's in place, everything's torqued down, clip is in place, wheel goes back on, and you switch to the other side, then you move to the front. Pretty straightforward. Alright, here we are at the front. One of the things I'm going to have to do is grind down all the rust from this lip here, because that's causing all sorts of problems getting the wheels off. We're going to be replacing this rotor. We're going to be replacing the front pads. It's about time. There's still a little bit of life left in them. Can't really see down in there very well. Still a little bit of life left in them. So we're going to have to take the brackets off for the calipers. I'm going to go ahead and do the brake line first, 14 millimeter as with the back. I already took off this clamp. It has a hinge. You can just pry that off pretty easily. I'm going to replace the line from here to the caliper. Take off the two caliper bolts, top and bottom. Replace the boots probably with the new hardware. So I'm using all Powerstop stuff. They come with new rubber, also new spring clips typically. So I'm going to swap off the rotor. That's pretty easy once you've got the caliper off, because you've got this bolt here for the caliper and then the other one down here. Same deal as the back. Get this end disconnected first, then I bent open slightly this bracket using a pry bar so that I can slip my line in there and use that as a resting point up here like the factory routing. And then pro tip, switch out the Ford clip for the Goodridge clip and make your life easier while you're disconnecting these, because then this one is a little easier to pop out. Although it's very difficult to get it out, it's not nearly as hard as the Ford clip, and it'll make life easier when you go to switch this end. So here we are, ready to drain. I use the top of the strut bolt to hold my motive bottle. Do yourself a favor and at least get a motive bottle to start doing bleeding. I think the bottle itself is like 10 bucks on Amazon or 15 bucks. I'll put some kind of a link down below. It'll save you a lot of headache, and all you have to do is crack that open. If you also have the motive bleeder, you pressurize, it maintains the fluid level, which is what I've got going on up here. Pressurize, maintains the fluid level, and then all you do is crack open the valve, let it drain until you get clear fluid, shut off the valve, and then you're done. That's it. It's really actually that simple. And if nobody has ever taught you how to read the brake fluid, this is how you can tell. You can see a clear delineation between the black stuff that's spent and the stuff here at the very, very bottom. Stuff at the very bottom is clean, clear fluid. Stuff at the top is the garbage you need out. So once everything's all tightened up, now we have our fluid out. Cool thing about the motive bleeder is that air vent also works to reconnect the other tubes, so you don't have brake fluid getting everywhere aside from what hits the ground. Alright, eventually I'll clean these up and repaint them. Right now I'm not real high on my priority list. What is high is mechanical function. I have a roadkill grade zip tie there holding the brake line from going anywhere. All of our angles are good, there's no stretching. Now you use the old pad and C-clamp, preferably a quick adjust one because it'll save you time. You want to use that clamp, press these back. This is about as far as they go, so don't try and get them flush or anything crazy. Once they kind of stop moving, that's it. Stop applying pressure, move to the other side, keep it balanced, and then you'll have those backed off. That'll raise the fluid level because you're changing the piston volumes. So I'm going to do this part on the other side first, then do the brake bleed, and after I swap out the brake line. So I'm going to do it basically in the opposite order, where I'm going to do the brakes and rotors first, then I'm going to come around and do the other parts. Then we'll reassemble that side and do the actual bleed part very, very last. Pro tip number 872. As soon as my heart starts beating at a normal rhythm, I'll be able to hold the camera more steady. I had to really crank on these bolts, but you put in 2 bolts into the rotor, and that's what's going to actually drive it off of the hub face, because you can stand there and beat it with a hammer all day long, like I did for a little bit, thinking it wasn't so rusty that it would come off, but no. Use the bolts, save yourself some time. I'll either put on text of the screen or come back with what particular thread pattern that was. Pro tip number 8647. A little bit of grease, especially around the edge where the hub meets the wheel, and where the new rotor face is going to meet the hub. Make that a whole lot easier to disassemble next time. Future you is welcome. Make sure to switch over new boots that you get with the kit. You get new boots, new clips. So all that needs to go on here. Those are the new clips. They're going to go on the bracket. Make sure that you grease the sliders and put the new boots on. Then you have a nice clean setup, and you'll need to clean the wheels and do all sorts of other things, but that rotor shouldn't have the same corrosion issues, and the grease should help keep the wheel actually coming off next time. The other side, we're doing the same thing, but I want to point out, this is why you don't want others doing your brakes. That's two inners on the same side. These guys squeal like crazy. Yeah, no kidding. That's because the caliper isn't even on correctly. So that means that we'll get better caliper engagement, and the brakes will work infinitely better, and there will be new fluid, and there will be new brake lines. So the brake pedal should be absolutely as firm as a brake, which will be amazing. So same thing, put the bolts in here once the caliper bracket's gone. Take those off, clean everything up with the wire brush, and then get some grease on there. Put the new rotor on, put the new pads in, making sure all the hardware is replaced. Everything gets greased with the high temp brake grease, except not the pad surface or the rotors. Then this guy still has to be compressed, so that's next up. And then we'll tie everything up and put it back on the ground. All right, rotor is on, outer, inner. Pay attention, it's not that hard. Outer has the ears that correspond with the pistons. The outers do not. The inners have those ears, correspond with the pistons. The outers do not. It's real simple, but a lot of people mess it up. No, I'm not worried about that grease because it's not going to fling everywhere. That's not really a thing. That will keep it from rusting and keep my wheel from being permanently adhered, so that will be a good thing. So now just the brake line job, and then bleed, because when you compress the cylinders, what happens is your fluid level rises, right? That'll be a bad thing if you still have the cap on and I didn't have pressure release, but you can see, I guess it didn't actually pressurize the system, but it'd be very easy to see if it did. So that's the last step. Put it all back together, swap out the brake line, do a roadkill braid zip tie right there, keep the line in place, and we're off to break in the brake.